"You're not leaving until we check everything." Officer Blake Thompson's voice cut through the hum of idling engines at the interstate rest stop, sharp, demanding, full of authority. Alicia Jordan's eyes met his through the tinted window of her black semi, calm and unshaken, a faint smirk playing on her lips as she adjusted her seat, her hands gripping the wheel with the ease of someone used to long stretches of highway and silent observation. The neon sign overhead flickered, casting intermittent light across the asphalt, the glow bouncing off the chrome mirrors and metal rims, highlighting every curve and edge of the parked trucks around them. The air was thick with tension, the faint scent of diesel and rain mixing with the lingering odor of fast food from the small diner across the lot. Blake stepped forward, radio in hand, gesturing to his partner, who followed cautiously, the two of them framing the semi like predators circling prey, unaware that their target was more prepared than they could imagine. Alicia's breath was slow and measured, her mind racing with calculations, contingency plans running silently behind her focused gaze. Every muscle in her body relaxed, yet alert, ready to act with precision. She wasn't just a trucker. She was someone trained to read people, anticipate movements, and control outcomes without a single word. The clatter of a distant luggage cart rolling across the diner floor punctuated the silence, echoing like a drumbeat marking the moments before the storm. Blake knocked lightly on the door of the cab, the sound sharp, deliberate, trying to provoke a reaction, and Alicia tilted her head slightly, acknowledging the interruption but not reacting impulsively, her calm demeanor a subtle challenge. The camera could almost feel the tension as it swept across the lot, capturing the uneven glow of street lamps, the gleam of chrome bumpers, and the shadows cast by parked trailers stretching long and distorted. Blake's eyes narrowed as he motioned to his partner, whispering under his breath, "Let's see who we're dealing with." But Alicia already anticipated their assumptions, her mind sorting through the possibilities, each step, each glance, each potential escalation already accounted for in her experience. She opened the door slowly, letting the cool night air brush past her, the sound of her boots on the concrete precise and controlled, each step measured to convey confidence without aggression. Blake's gaze followed, every movement, noticing the way her fingers brushed against the door frame, the subtle shift of weight from one leg to another, all the while unaware that her posture, her calm, her presence alone conveyed authority far beyond the uniform he wore. The radio in Blake's hand crackled with static, a small reminder of communication lines and command structures that Alicia already had mapped in her head, aware of who could intervene, who could escalate, and who could be manipulated with a single confident assertion. She placed her hand briefly on the cab, a casual motion that betrayed nothing, but signaled to anyone paying attention that she was not intimidated, she was not uncertain, and she was fully in control of the space around her. Blake's partner shifted slightly, unease creeping into his stance, sensing the subtle power imbalance that Alicia's quiet composure projected, though neither could fully comprehend the experience, the training, the readiness that lay beneath the surface. The wind picked up, carrying a faint rustle from nearby trees, the soft patter of rain beginning on the asphalt, droplets reflecting the neon like tiny scattered stars, as Alicia looked directly at Blake, and for a moment the world held its breath, the usual assumptions of authority and subordination suspended in that flickering, storm-tinged light. She reached slowly into her jacket, a motion so casual it seemed innocuous, but the glint of a badge, partially hidden, caught the edge of the neon light, just enough to suggest depth and intrigue, hinting at layers beneath the simple identity of trucker, layers that Blake could not yet perceive. The hum of engines, the occasional bark of a distant dog, the low murmur of diner patrons through the glass, all faded into a tense silence as their eyes locked, the subtle dance of perception and reality playing out in microseconds. Alicia Jordan stood firm, confident, aware, and ready, every nerve aligned to the rhythm of control and anticipation, and though Blake did not yet understand it, the situation had already shifted, the rules silently rewritten in the shadow of her calm authority, setting the stage for revelation and shock in the moments that would follow. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The night deepened around the rest stop, the neon lights flickering intermittently as Alicia. Jordan remained seated in the cab, her posture unyielding yet relaxed, a quiet storm of focus behind her calm gaze. Officer Blake Thompson stepped closer, the sound of his polished shoes clicking against the concrete floor, each step echoing in the otherwise silent lot, the hum of idling trucks providing a low, steady background note. The wind rustled through the scattered leaves along the asphalt, carrying faint echoes of distant traffic and the occasional bark from a stray dog, blending seamlessly with the mechanical drone of refrigeration units from nearby trucks. Alicia's eyes flicked toward the radio clipped to Blake's belt, noting the subtle patterns of movement, the casual gestures masking tension, every flick of the hand, every glance holding a meaning she parsed instantly. She unclipped a small notebook from the side of her seat, fingers brushing the worn leather cover as if to steady herself, each motion deliberate, controlled, measured, her awareness stretching across the lot, noting every reflection in the chrome surfaces, every shadow cast under the fluorescent glow of the canopy above. Blake's partner shifted nervously, glancing at Alicia from the corner of his eye, feeling the unexpected weight of her presence without understanding why. The subtle energy she radiated seeming to bend the space between them, altering assumptions and recalibrating perceived authority. Alicia stepped out of the cab, the cool night air brushing against her face, carrying with it the faint scent of gasoline, rain-soaked asphalt, and the lingering aroma of fried food from the diner across the lot. Each step she took was measured, deliberate, the echo of her boots against the concrete a metronome of calm confidence, commanding attention without demanding it, asserting control with silent precision. Blake raised his hand slightly, signaling her to stop, and Alicia paused mid-step, her gaze meeting his with an intensity that caused a momentary hesitation, a brief crack in the armor of assumed dominance. The street lamp above flickered, casting a stuttering light over her features, highlighting the unwavering determination in her eyes, the quiet intelligence, the readiness honed from years of training, experience, and disciplined anticipation. Blake cleared his throat, trying to regain composure, but the rhythm of the night had shifted. The usual assumptions of control no longer applied, the unseen balance of power tilting subtly, yet unmistakably. Alicia's hand brushed lightly against the door of the truck, a casual gesture that belied the careful calculation behind it, each movement a silent signal of confidence, mastery, and preparedness. Her mind was already running through contingencies, mapping exit routes, alternate actions, ways to defuse tension without escalating it, the knowledge of protocols and procedures working seamlessly with instinct and intuition. The faint rumble of a semi starting nearby sent vibrations across the asphalt, and Alicia's eyes followed the movement, noting the pattern, the angle, the trajectory, integrating the information without a single break in focus. Blake's expression hardened, his eyes narrowing, trying to reassert dominance through presence alone, but Alicia held her ground, her stance steady, her chest slightly lifted, shoulders squared, exuding calm authority that radiated outward and disrupted the expected flow of events. A distant train horn wailed faintly, the sound echoing through the lot, a temporal marker, a reminder of motion, of continuity, of forces beyond the immediate confrontation, and Alicia used the moment to adjust her balance, shifting weight subtly, a physical punctuation in a conversation conducted entirely without words. Blake's partner swallowed, sensing the unseen currents of control, the subtle shifts in posture and gaze that spoke volumes about experience, training, and latent power, yet neither fully grasped the depth of preparation Alicia carried with her. The rain picked up slightly, droplets scattering across the asphalt, creating fleeting reflections of neon and chrome, mirroring the flickers of uncertainty beginning to appear in the expressions of the officers, a quiet chaos measured in microseconds and subtle movements. Alicia's gaze remained steady, her mind a calm engine of logic and perception, processing, anticipating, evaluating, her every sense attuned to the environment, the people, the sounds, the lights, the shadows, the angles, and the potential outcomes, ready to act decisively when the moment demanded it, while projecting a serene, unshakable confidence that unsettled the assumption of authority Blake thought he held firmly in hand. Each heartbeat, each shallow inhalation, each slight movement of the eyes became part of a larger rhythm. A carefully orchestrated ballet of perception and anticipation that Blake could sense, but not yet interpret, the subtle power of presence asserting itself with quiet but undeniable force, leaving a tension in the air that was almost tangible, a suspended moment waiting for the revelation, for the truth to tilt the scales in unexpected ways, as the night and the rest stop bore silent witness to the unfolding quiet drama that would soon turn assumptions on their head and reveal the real measure of authority and expertise. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The rain intensified slightly, tapping against the roof of Alicia Jordan's cab and bouncing off the asphalt in rhythmic, uneven patterns that matched the tension in the air. She adjusted her seatbelt, a subtle movement that conveyed preparedness and composure, and her eyes flicked toward the distant diner where the soft glow of lights indicated a few lingering patrons, unaware of the quiet confrontation unfolding outside. Officer Blake Thompson stepped closer, shifting weight from one foot to the other, his gaze narrowing, scanning Alicia for any sign of nervousness, yet finding none. Her hands rested lightly on the steering wheel, not gripping but poised, and the faint hum of the truck's engine under her fingertips provided a calm counterpoint to the storm of anticipation surrounding them. Blake raised his radio, speaking in clipped tones, attempting to reassert control through procedural authority, and Alicia tilted her head slightly, listening carefully, weighing each word, each pause, the cadence, the intent behind it, absorbing the energy and preparing to respond with precision. The wind picked up again, sending a ripple through the banners of nearby gas pumps and the loose papers fluttering along the lot, creating momentary distractions, yet Alicia's focus remained unwavering, her mind mapping every angle, predicting movements, and calculating outcomes in silent, deliberate efficiency. A distant truck horn blared, its resonance bouncing off the nearby walls and concrete, momentarily drawing Blake's attention, but Alicia's calm did not falter. She used the pause to assess, to consider, to anticipate every subtle shift of their bodies, every adjustment of stance, integrating these cues into a broader awareness of the unfolding scene. She stepped lightly out of the cab, boots hitting the wet asphalt with quiet authority, each step purposeful, measured, unhurried, as the neon lights above reflected off the rain-soaked surface, flickering across her silhouette and casting long, controlled shadows that seemed to echo the calm command radiating from her presence. Blake opened his mouth, intending to assert authority again, but the words caught in his throat, the calculated stillness in Alicia's posture creating an unspoken barrier, a demonstration of control through presence alone. Her eyes met his, steady, calm, and focused, transmitting confidence and readiness without a single word, each blink, each subtle shift in expression communicating awareness, anticipation, and an unshakable sense of self-possession. A puddle rippled at her feet as a gust of wind swept across the lot, mirroring the undercurrent of uncertainty beginning to creep into the officer's demeanor, and Alicia allowed herself a subtle, fleeting smile, the first acknowledgement of the unspoken power dynamic that had quietly shifted. Her fingers brushed against the side of the cab, a casual, almost imperceptible motion, signaling awareness and preparation, and Blake found himself subtly adjusting his stance, the usual assumptions of immediate dominance undermined by the silent authority she exuded. The distant flicker of headlights across the highway provided intermittent illumination, highlighting the contrast between the darkened trucks, the reflective chrome, and the steady, composed figure of Alicia standing amidst it all, a quiet sentinel of competence and presence. Every sense was engaged, every detail observed, from the distant neon reflections to the low rumble of engines starting and stopping, to the gentle sway of nearby tree branches, all of which Alicia incorporated into a mental map of the lot and the people within it. Blake's partner shifted uncomfortably, sensing the subtle shift in the atmosphere, the faint tension that Alicia maintained through her mere stance, her calm demeanor, her steady gaze, all conveying more authority than words could achieve, creating a palpable, almost tangible tension that seemed to bend the space around them. Alicia's eyes flicked toward the small diner again, noting the brief glances of a few curious onlookers, but she did not waver, her awareness encompassing all stimuli without distraction, integrating sight, sound, and subtle movement into a fluid understanding of the environment. The rain continued to fall in steady, measured drops, echoing in the hollow spaces between the trucks and along the asphalt, punctuating the silence with a rhythmic undertone as Alicia shifted her weight slightly, a minor adjustment that conveyed readiness, confidence, and control, an unspoken challenge to those around her to recognize her presence, her competence, and the latent authority she carried with effortless grace. Blake took a cautious step closer, tension mounting, the subtle uncertainty creeping into his posture as he realized that the expected reaction had not materialized, and Alicia, fully aware of the power she held in that quiet space, let the moment linger just long enough to imprint a sense of measured anticipation on everyone present. The atmosphere was taut, heavy with expectation, the lot illuminated intermittently by flickering neon, the shadows dancing across the damp asphalt, reflecting a scene where patience, awareness, and silent control dictated the balance of authority, and Alicia Jordan stood at the center of it all, poised, observant, unshakable, the embodiment of readiness and calm influence in a moment that seemed suspended, awaiting the revelation that would shift the night's dynamic in ways that none of them yet could predict. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The neon light above the rest stop flickered, casting a stuttering glow over the damp asphalt and reflecting off the wet surfaces of trucks lined up along the lot, their chrome mirrors gleaming intermittently, as if holding silent witnesses to the unfolding tension. Alicia Jordan remained at the center of it all, her hands resting lightly on the door of her cab, her eyes scanning every subtle movement of Officer Blake Thompson and his partner, absorbing posture, gesture, and expression in a seamless rhythm of awareness and anticipation. The soft patter of rain against the roof of the semi provided a background cadence, steady and calm, contrasting with the electric pulse of anticipation in the air. Blake took a cautious step forward, attempting to regain a sense of procedural control, but Alicia's calm composure created an invisible barrier, a quiet assertion of authority that made each step he took feel heavier, more deliberate, as if measured against an unseen standard. She tilted her head slightly, considering the weight of each moment, the timing of every word and gesture, her subtle shifts in stance conveying readiness without aggression, her presence alone dictating the tempo of the encounter. The lot was quiet except for the low hum of idling engines, distant headlights cutting through the night fog in slow arcs, and the occasional rustle of leaves along the perimeter, all of which Alicia registered and integrated into her mental map of the scene, anticipating how the officers might react, how the environment could change, and how she could maintain control through observation and precise, measured action. Blake cleared his throat, his voice firm but carrying a hint of uncertainty, as he instructed his partner to verify paperwork, and Alicia's eyes flicked momentarily to the radio clip too. His belt, noting the subtle gestures, the cadence of communication, and the way each officer positioned themselves, all details folded seamlessly into her awareness. She stepped fully into the light cast by the nearest street lamp, boots hitting the wet asphalt with precise rhythm, each movement deliberate, a visual assertion of calm authority that contrasted with the subtle tension radiating from the officers. The neon reflections danced across her figure, highlighting the effortless confidence in her stance, the poise and readiness honed through training, experience, and an acute understanding of human behavior under observation. Blake shifted slightly, adjusting his posture, the air thick with anticipation, his assumptions challenged by the quiet strength Alicia radiated without a word. She allowed herself a slow, controlled breath, the subtle rise and fall of her shoulders a measured indication of control over herself and the space around her, her gaze unwavering, her attention encompassing every visual and auditory cue, interpreting meaning from the smallest movements and minute changes in expression. The rain continued to fall in rhythmic drops, pattering against the asphalt and metallic surfaces, punctuating the silence with a natural percussion, each sound adding depth to the atmosphere, reinforcing the stillness charged with potential action. Alicia's fingers brushed briefly against the edge of the door, a simple, almost imperceptible movement. Yet in that gesture she communicated awareness, readiness, and precision, a silent declaration of her understanding of the environment and the people within it. Blake and his partner exchanged a glance, the tension in their shoulders, the tightening of their jawlines, the subtle flickers of doubt in their eyes betraying the uncertainty Alicia's presence had imposed on them, a quiet yet undeniable shift in perceived authority. Across the lot, distant headlights traced slow arcs across wet surfaces, illuminating reflections that played across her face, capturing the calm intensity in her eyes, the quiet intelligence, and the subtle hint of challenge in her expression, all forming an unspoken dialogue that spoke louder than words. Every detail was accounted for in her mind. The rhythm of the falling rain, the angle of streetlights, the reflections in chrome, the spacing between vehicles, and the movements of the officers, all integrated into a continuous, fluid understanding of the environment. Alicia shifted her weight slightly, just enough to adjust balance, each motion natural yet deliberate, conveying readiness, focus, and control, while Blake remained uncertain, each step measured against the silent, unwavering presence before him, realizing the expected dynamic of authority had subtly but decisively shifted. The neon flickered again, shadows stretching and contracting across the lot, creating a visual rhythm that mirrored the unspoken contest of observation and anticipation between them, the night holding its breath, waiting for the first indication of movement that would reveal intention, readiness, and command. Alicia Jordan remained poised, calm, and fully aware, a figure of composed authority and quiet influence in a scene charged with subtle tension, as the rest stop around them seemed to pulse with the silent energy of anticipation, the stage perfectly set for revelation, understanding, and the unfolding of events that would soon tilt the balance of perception and authority in her favor. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The low hum of the trucks filled the rest stop, blending with the soft patter of rain on asphalt as Alicia Jordan leaned slightly against the cab, her gaze sweeping the lot with precise calculation. Every shadow, every flicker of neon reflected in the puddles became part of her mental map, each observation reinforcing the calm, controlled rhythm she maintained. Officer Blake Thompson shifted uneasily, sensing the unexpected weight of her presence, the quiet authority that radiated without a single word, a tension that pulled at the edges of his assumed command. Alicia adjusted her jacket, the subtle movement fluid and deliberate, as if each gesture had been practiced, a silent demonstration of preparedness and awareness. She stepped forward, boots making soft contact with the wet asphalt, the light catching the polished edges, creating small reflections that danced around her, emphasizing her composed stature. Blake tried to regain composure, taking a small step closer, hand hovering near the radio clipped to his belt, but Alicia's calm and steady focus prevented any rush, her silent assessment of the situation creating a barrier more effective than words or orders. The air was thick with anticipation, a mixture of rain, exhaust, and faint food aromas from the diner across the lot blending into a tangible tension that neither could ignore. A distant horn echoed along the highway, a reminder of motion, continuity, and forces beyond the lot, and Alicia used the pause to scan angles, movements, and positions, anticipating the next steps of the officers and adjusting her body language to maintain subtle dominance. Blake glanced at his partner, who was shifting nervously, realizing the confidence Alicia displayed was rooted in something beyond the ordinary, a presence that commanded attention and altered assumptions without confrontation. The glow of the neon overhead flickered, illuminating droplets of rain on the asphalt that shimmered like scattered stars, and Alicia's eyes followed the reflections, integrating light, shadow, and movement into her assessment of the space, predicting potential obstacles and advantages with uncanny precision. Each subtle motion of her fingers, each tilt of her head, was deliberate, calculated, a demonstration of control that contrasted sharply with the officer's taut, reactive postures. She moved closer to the edge of the cab, allowing the dim light to catch a brief glint of her badge hidden beneath her jacket, the subtle reveal unseen by Blake, but potent in the rhythm of confidence it added to her presence. The quiet sound of dripping rain, distant engines starting and stopping, and the occasional creak of a truck door punctuated the night, each sound a marker in the carefully measured sequence of observation and anticipation Alicia maintained. Blake's voice broke the silence with a clipped command, but Alicia did not flinch. She simply tilted her head, listening, processing, interpreting the weight and intent behind the words, her response measured in milliseconds, her focus complete, unbroken. Her breath was steady, controlled, shoulders squared, and chest slightly lifted, projecting a quiet authority that Blake could sense but not define, a presence that challenged every assumption he had made about dominance, control, and expectation. Across the lot, the neon reflected off chrome bumpers and wet surfaces, casting shadows that shifted with the wind and rain, creating a dynamic stage where the balance of perception subtly, almost imperceptibly, tilted toward Alicia. She allowed herself a slight, imperceptible smile, acknowledging the unspoken tension she maintained, a quiet signal that she understood the environment, the stakes, and the subtle dynamics of authority in play. Every element, the neon glow, the reflections, the rain, the distant lights, the rhythm of the engines, was integrated into her awareness, each factor influencing her posture, her gaze, her timing, and the silent dialogue she conducted through presence alone. Blake shifted, unconsciously mirroring her movements, his own body adjusting to the subtle cues she emitted, recognizing, though without articulation, that the expected hierarchy had been disrupted, that control was no longer a simple measure of rank or uniform. Alicia's hands brushed lightly against the cab door, a casual motion layered with intent, each second stretched, every movement deliberate, reinforcing a calm mastery that Blake felt in the pit of his stomach, the quiet power of anticipation and experience radiating without overt assertion. The night seemed to hold its breath, the lot a tableau of observation, awareness, and latent energy, with Alicia Jordan at its center, fully in command of the unseen, subtle forces that dictated the unfolding dynamics. The scene perfectly poised for the revelation that would eventually clarify the true measure of authority and competence. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The night air had grown cooler, carrying the faint scent of rain-soaked asphalt and the distant aroma of coffee from the diner across the lot as Alicia Jordan shifted slightly, her eyes narrowing with focused calculation. Every detail of the rest stop was mapped in her mind, from the subtle reflections of neon lights bouncing off chrome bumpers to the distant shadows of passing vehicles, each element noted and processed in real time. Officer Blake Thompson's posture had stiffened, his weight shifting subtly as he watched her, an unspoken question forming in the tension that lingered between them. Alicia stepped deliberately closer to the edge of the cab, boots landing with a soft, measured rhythm on the wet concrete, her movements fluid, confident, and precise, each gesture intentional, yet seemingly casual. The gentle drumming of rain against the roof of the semi served as a quiet metronome, emphasizing the controlled calm that she maintained amidst the anticipatory energy surrounding the lot. Blake cleared his throat and spoke, his voice firm but carrying the underlying uncertainty of someone unsure of the unseen forces at play, and Alicia's gaze met his, unblinking, absorbing every inflection, every slight shift in expression, each movement cataloged and interpreted for meaning. A distant truck horn sounded, its low vibration reverberating across the lot, and she noted the timing, the distance, the potential interference, integrating it seamlessly into her assessment, her mind running multiple possibilities in parallel while her body remained entirely composed. The neon above flickered once, briefly illuminating the cab and casting her shadow long and steady across the asphalt, highlighting the quiet control she projected. Through posture, gesture, and presence alone, Blake's partner shifted uneasily, sensing the weight of her awareness, the subtle authority radiating without words, and he felt the balance of assumed power begin to tip, a silent acknowledgement that the dynamics had shifted in ways that neither officer had anticipated. Alicia's hand brushed briefly against the edge of the cab door, a minor movement that communicated readiness, attention, and composure, her entire presence calibrated to project quiet authority while maintaining full situational awareness. The air was alive with subtle motion, raindrops falling intermittently, leaves rustling along the perimeter, the hum of idling engines punctuating the silence, each element feeding into the mental map she maintained, integrating light, sound, and motion into a coherent understanding of potential outcomes. Blake's eyes flicked toward the cab as if searching for a clue, a sign of uncertainty, but Alicia remained steady, unshaken, a calm force against the procedural insistence of the officers. She shifted weight slightly, adjusting balance with the fluidity of someone trained to control tension through minimal, deliberate movement. Her stance steady, chest slightly raised, shoulders squared, eyes focused, radiating a quiet yet undeniable control over the scene. The reflections in the wet asphalt mirrored the intermittent neon light, creating a subtle interplay of shadow and color that accentuated her presence, making every movement she made carry the weight of precision and careful calculation. Blake's voice was clipped, attempting to assert procedural authority, but the calm, measured reaction of Alicia challenged the assumptions he had brought into the encounter, forcing a pause, a moment of reassessment, and an internal questioning of what he believed the situation to be. Each second stretched, the anticipation building without overt action, as Alicia continued her silent communication through posture, gaze, and subtle micro-movements, dictating the rhythm of the encounter, drawing attention, and holding it without confrontation. The rain's cadence shifted, now heavier in some spots, creating a dynamic soundscape, while distant headlights traced slow arcs across the lot, illuminating shifting shadows and reflecting the flicker of neon, all feeding into the calculated environment Alicia observed and navigated with full awareness. Blake's partner moved slightly, adjusting stance, mirroring her calm readiness without realizing it, the influence of her composed presence subtly guiding their behavior. The lot seemed suspended in time, every detail, the reflections, the sounds, the damp concrete, the shifting light, the officer's uncertain gestures, captured in her attentive awareness. Her control radiating outward, shaping perception and maintaining authority without a word. Alicia's eyes scanned, registering minute shifts in position, posture, and focus, integrating them seamlessly into her ongoing assessment, while the environment, wet asphalt, neon, distant movement, rain, served as both stage and instrument for her quiet command. Every subtle cue reinforced her awareness, her influence, and her presence, creating a space where anticipation and observation controlled the unfolding events, leaving Blake and his partner subtly off balance, aware that the expected dynamic had shifted. The night, the rest stop, the neon, the rain, and the distant highway all contributed to a tense tableau, perfectly aligned for a revelation, as Alicia stood poised, fully in command of the unseen forces around her, each micro-movement deliberate, measured, and calculated, setting the stage for the next moment where understanding and authority would become undeniably clear. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The tension hung thick over the rest stop as the neon lights flickered, casting intermittent shadows across the wet asphalt and glistening chrome surfaces of parked trucks. Alicia Jordan remained composed, her stance steady, the faint sheen of rain on her jacket catching the light as she surveyed the lot with measured calm, every sense engaged in silent observation. Officer Blake Thompson stepped closer, shifting slightly, attempting to reassert the procedural authority he relied upon. But the unshakable confidence emanating from Alicia caused a hesitation, a subtle pause in his movements, as though the space around her subtly resisted the assumptions of dominance he carried. The wind gusted through the lot, stirring fallen leaves and rippling the puddles, their reflections fracturing the neon glow into shimmering patterns, and Alicia adjusted her weight just slightly, the movement precise, controlled, and deliberate, signaling her awareness and readiness without a word. Her eyes scanned every angle, every shadow, noting the subtle gestures of Blake's partner, the way his shoulders tensed, the slight shift of his head, the rhythm of his breathing, integrating all observations into an ongoing mental map of the environment. The distant sound of a truck horn echoed through the night, punctuating the otherwise quiet hum of idling engines and the soft murmur of the diner across the street, and Alicia absorbed it, factoring in timing, distance, and potential interference, her mind calculating contingencies with silent efficiency. Blake's voice cut through the air, firm yet tinged with uncertainty, issuing commands that seemed to ripple against an invisible barrier, and Alicia responded with a slight, almost imperceptible tilt of her head, acknowledging him while maintaining her calm and controlled presence. The neon above flickered again, casting long, shifting shadows that stretched across the lot, emphasizing her stature, the careful alignment of posture, and the poised balance she maintained as she subtly dominated the visual field without confrontation. Every subtle shift in her body language, the way her hands rested lightly on the cab, the precise placement of her feet, the even cadence of her breathing, radiated authority, projecting confidence that Blake could feel but could not define, a quiet yet undeniable command of attention. Alicia's gaze briefly swept toward the diner, noting the few lingering patrons, their casual glances unaware of the unspoken contest unfolding outside, while her focus remained entirely on the officers, integrating visual, auditory, and environmental cues seamlessly into her awareness. The rain continued to fall in steady drops, creating a rhythmic undertone that underscored the tension in the lot, and Alicia allowed herself a slight, controlled exhale, maintaining composure while her mind tracked every variable, every potential movement, and every subtle shift in demeanor from the officers. Blake shifted again, the hesitation in his steps, the subtle narrowing of his eyes, and the quick glance toward his partner signaling the quiet influence of Alicia's composed presence, the balance of perceived authority subtly tipping with each passing second. She moved slightly, the sound of her boots against the wet asphalt soft yet deliberate, her motion projecting readiness and calm control, and the reflection of neon light in puddles accentuated the precise rhythm of her movements. Each detail, the shimmer on wet surfaces, the faint streaks of rain, the distant headlights, the muted hum of engines, the shifting shadows, fed into Alicia's ongoing assessment, maintaining a flow of observation and anticipation that kept the officers off balance. Her posture remained perfectly aligned, chest slightly lifted, shoulders squared, gaze focused and unwavering, and every subtle micro-movement conveyed confidence and silent mastery, reinforcing her unspoken command of the environment. Blake and his partner instinctively adjusted their stances, their motions slower, measured, reflecting the unacknowledged power Alicia projected without a word, and the lot seemed suspended in anticipation, each droplet of rain, each reflection of neon, each quiet sound contributing to the charged atmosphere. Alicia Jordan stood fully aware, poised, and composed, a figure of quiet authority and measured control, the air around her vibrating with the subtle assertion of presence that shaped perception, maintained dominance, and prepared the stage for the moments when understanding, recognition, and revelation would finally emerge. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The rain had slowed to a gentle drizzle, the streetlights casting a soft, diffused glow across the wet asphalt as Alicia Jordan stood with poised calm, every detail of the rest stop memorized in her mind. The subtle reflections of neon and puddles created shifting patterns that seemed to pulse with the quiet tension she projected, and the low hum of idling trucks added a steady rhythm that matched the controlled cadence of her breath. Officer Blake Thompson shifted again, attempting to reassert authority, but the hesitancy in his posture betrayed the subtle influence of Alicia's unwavering presence, each careful movement from her disrupting his assumptions of command. Alicia stepped forward with deliberate precision, her boots striking the wet concrete softly, measured yet confident, and the light glinting off the cab's chrome mirrored her composure, emphasizing the calm control she held over the scene. The wind stirred lightly, carrying the faint scent of gasoline and damp leaves, brushing against her jacket and hair, and she used the motion to observe the micro-adjustments in Blake's stance, noting tension in his shoulders, the subtle narrowing of his eyes, and the slight shift in his partner's gaze. Each sound and movement became part of her mental map, from the distant flicker of headlights across the highway to the soft scuff of shoes on concrete and the intermittent drip of rain from a nearby awning, all feeding into her seamless assessment of situational dynamics. Blake raised his hand slightly, attempting to issue another command, but Alicia's gaze met his steadily, unblinking, conveying focus, confidence, and a quiet authority that required no words, leaving him momentarily uncertain, questioning the assumptions he had relied on. The neon above flickered, illuminating the cab and puddles in quick bursts, highlighting every subtle shift in posture. The precision of her gestures, the calm intensity in her eyes, and the effortless control she maintained over space and attention. Alicia's hands rested lightly at her sides as she adjusted weight and stance subtly, each micro-movement measured, purposeful, and deliberate, conveying readiness and control without overt action, maintaining an aura of unshakable poise. The officers' movements became slightly more cautious, their steps slower, reflecting an unspoken acknowledgement of the balance of influence shifting in Alicia's favor, even if they could not articulate why. The quiet rhythm of raindrops, the distant low rumble of an engine starting, and the faint hum of the neon signage created a layered soundscape, all of which Alicia integrated seamlessly into her awareness. Her senses heightened, yet composed, every micro-detail reinforcing her command of the environment. She tilted her head subtly, observing reflections in chrome surfaces, shadow shifts across the asphalt, and the smallest gestures from Blake and his partner, noting the cadence, timing, and intent behind every move, integrating all observations into a continuous flow of situational understanding. Alicia's posture remained impeccable, shoulders squared, chest slightly raised, and eyes focused, radiating confidence and calm control while maintaining full awareness of space and motion around her, projecting a quiet, undeniable authority. Blake's eyes flicked toward his partner, exchanging a brief, uncertain glance, both officers reacting to her presence, the tension now a silent, almost tangible force between them, the air charged with anticipation, observation, and restrained power. Each subtle gesture Alicia made, each blink, tilt, or breath, contributed to a rhythm that dictated the flow of attention, shaping perception, and maintaining influence over the encounter without a single word spoken, leaving the officers hesitant, off balance, and alert to the possibility that their assumptions had been challenged. The neon reflections in puddles shimmered with movement, the rain's soft percussion continuing, the low hum of engines, the occasional passing vehicle, and the distant rustle of leaves combined to heighten the sense of awareness, emphasizing the careful, deliberate control Alicia maintained over her presence and the space around her. She stepped lightly toward the edge of the cab again, her motion smooth, precise, and intentional, projecting calm authority, integrating environmental cues, officer behavior, and her own position into a seamless assessment, maintaining readiness for any potential escalation, while the officers remained subtly off balance, each second stretching with anticipation in the charged night atmosphere. Alicia Jordan stood fully composed, poised, and aware, commanding attention and subtly directing the flow of interaction through posture, presence, and measured action. The rest stopped suspended in quiet tension, perfectly set for the upcoming moments where understanding and revelation would unfold, revealing the full measure of control she exerted without overt assertion. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The drizzle had softened to a gentle mist, the glow of neon signs reflecting in the puddles that dotted the asphalt, and Alicia Jordan remained poised, her presence commanding without a word, every subtle movement deliberate and controlled. Officer Blake Thompson and his partner adjusted their positions, uncertainty creeping into their stance as they unconsciously mirrored her calm, composed posture, the expected dynamic of authority quietly shifting in the space between them. Alicia stepped lightly, her boots making soft contact with the wet surface, the sound barely audible over the low hum of idling trucks and the occasional drip of rain from overhead fixtures. Her gaze swept the lot, noting every reflection, every movement, every potential angle, while her mind ran silent calculations, anticipating reactions and planning subtle adjustments to maintain control without overt confrontation. Blake's eyes narrowed, the tension in his shoulders visible, a faint frown marking his focus as he tried to reconcile the presence of such quiet authority with the procedural control he assumed he held. Alicia's hands remained relaxed at her sides, her weight balanced perfectly, her chest lifted slightly, projecting a composed confidence that radiated outward, altering the energy of the lot without any motion intended to dominate physically. The mist swirled gently around the parked trailers, carrying the faint scent of gasoline and wet concrete, each detail cataloged seamlessly by Alicia as she integrated visual and auditory cues, maintaining a continuous flow of situational awareness. She shifted her stance minutely, subtle enough to suggest a minor adjustment, yet enough to reinforce her readiness, her posture an unspoken demonstration of mastery over both environment and interaction. Blake cleared his throat, speaking in clipped, measured tones, attempting to assert dominance, and Alicia's eyes met his without flinching, absorbing each word, interpreting intent, and maintaining the stillness that challenged every expectation of hierarchy he had brought into the encounter. A distant truck horn echoed softly, punctuating the quiet, and Alicia incorporated the sound into her awareness, noting its timing, its origin, and its potential impact on perception, further reinforcing her complete command of observation and presence. The neon overhead flickered again, casting uneven light that danced across wet asphalt and chrome surfaces, highlighting her figure with shifting shadows that accentuated the precision and control inherent in every micro-movement, every subtle shift of posture and glance. Blake's partner shifted slightly, unease apparent, a subconscious acknowledgement of Alicia's influence, the silent authority she projected affecting both officers, the expected flow of interaction disrupted by her presence alone. Alicia's eyes briefly swept to the diner across the lot, noting the few patrons inside, yet her attention never wavered from the officers, integrating the ambient light, the reflections, the soundscape, and the subtle motions of the human figures in her immediate environment into a coherent, continuous assessment. Each small gesture, the tilt of her head, the subtle lift of a shoulder, the even cadence of her breathing, projected quiet authority, control, and readiness, reinforcing the unspoken dominance she maintained in a scenario where movement and noise were minimal but perception and influence were paramount. The mist thickened slightly, forming a delicate veil around her silhouette, emphasizing the stillness and precision in her movements, the calm assurance in her stance, and the unspoken command she held over attention and observation. Blake adjusted his posture once more, eyes darting briefly to his partner and back, the uncertainty in his expression growing, the subtle shift in the perceived balance of control now fully registering as Alicia's composed presence dictated the rhythm of the encounter. The low hum of engines, the intermittent drip of rain, the soft rustle of leaves, and the distant murmur of vehicles on the highway all layered into a soundscape that Alicia cataloged effortlessly, each auditory cue reinforcing her situational awareness and preparedness. Her stance remained impeccable, balanced, controlled, and commanding, projecting influence and authority with every imperceptible micromovement, every calculated shift in posture or gaze, while the officers adjusted, hesitated, and recalibrated their assumptions in real time, the night air thick with quiet anticipation, observation, and tension. Alicia Jordan stood fully aware, poised, and unshakable, every detail integrated into a seamless understanding of her environment, the lot around her suspended in charged silence, awaiting the next moment of clarity, recognition, and the subtle revelation of control that she maintained with perfect composure. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The mist hung thick over the rest stop, softening the neon glow and blurring the edges of parked trucks. As Alicia Jordan shifted slightly, her eyes scanning every movement with unwavering focus. The subtle reflection of lights in puddles created a dynamic pattern across the asphalt, emphasizing her poised stance and deliberate, controlled presence. Officer Blake Thompson and his partner exchanged quick, cautious glances, each aware of the unexpected authority she projected, their usual confidence tempered by the steady calm radiating from her. Alicia stepped forward, the soft tap of her boots on the wet concrete a measured rhythm that commanded attention without a single word, her posture balanced, shoulders squared, and chest slightly lifted, projecting readiness and composure. The faint drizzle added a gentle percussion, pattering across the truck cabs and asphalt, blending with the low hum of idling engines to create an ambient rhythm that underscored the quiet tension in the lot. Blake's eyes narrowed as he studied her, the hesitation in his step a subtle acknowledgement of the shift in perceived control, and Alicia's gaze met his steadily, unflinching, conveying focus, intelligence, and quiet authority that required no overt assertion. The neon above flickered again, casting shadows that danced across wet surfaces, accentuating the subtle micromovements Alicia used to assert control, the tilt of her head, the slight shift in weight, the careful placement of hands, all perfectly aligned to project calm influence. She briefly glanced toward the diner, noting the few patrons lingering inside, yet her attention remained locked on the officers, integrating ambient light, sound, and movement into a seamless awareness of space and people. Each breath she took was measured, deliberate, reinforcing a composed rhythm, and the faint scent of rain and diesel filled the cool night air, grounding her in the moment and heightening her perceptive acuity. Blake adjusted his posture, instinctively mirroring her calm readiness, the subtle tension between expectation and reality creating a charged stillness that made the lot seem suspended in time. Alicia's hand brushed lightly against the cab, a minor gesture conveying full situational awareness and preparedness, and her eyes flicked across reflections in chrome surfaces, puddles, and wet asphalt, integrating every detail into an ongoing assessment of the environment. The distant flicker of passing headlights added intermittent illumination, accentuating shadows and creating a dynamic backdrop for the silent contest of perception, observation, and authority unfolding in the misty night. Blake spoke in measured tones, attempting to regain procedural dominance, but Alicia's controlled presence disrupted the flow, causing a pause, a subtle shift in the officer's attention and expectations. She stepped slightly to the side, the soft scrape of her boots against the concrete harmonizing with the rhythm of falling rain, her movement deliberate, calculated, and precise, reinforcing control without confrontation. Every detail, the shimmer of puddles, the reflection of neon, the intermittent hum of engines, the distant movement of vehicles, and the faint rustle of leaves, was integrated seamlessly into her awareness, maintaining her silent dominance over space and interaction. Blake's partner shifted uneasily, sensing the unspoken influence Alicia exerted, the quiet authority radiating from her stance, and gaze subtly guiding the officer's behavior without a word. Alicia adjusted her posture, tilting her head slightly, the subtle exhale she allowed herself marking both composure and readiness, while the night around them seemed to pulse with quiet tension, anticipation, and observation. Her eyes remained focused, scanning angles, shadows, and gestures, integrating sound, light, and motion into an ongoing calculation of environmental dynamics, projecting calm authority, mastery, and confidence without a single overt motion of command. The neon flicker, mist, and reflections on the wet asphalt emphasized every precise micro-movement she made, reinforcing the influence of presence and awareness over the expected dynamics of authority, leaving Blake and his partner subtly off balance, hesitant, and attentive. Alicia Jordan remained poised, fully aware, and in complete control of her environment, projecting influence, readiness, and authority through every subtle shift of weight, gesture, and gaze, as the rest stop held its breath, suspended in a charged stillness that anticipated the coming revelation, the moment when full comprehension of her presence and skill would become undeniable. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The night held a suspended quiet as Alicia Jordan stood poised at the edge of the rest stop, the mist curling around her silhouette, reflecting the flickering neon lights and the damp chrome of nearby trucks. Her gaze swept the lot, noting every subtle movement of Officer Blake Thompson and his partner, registering their tentative steps, the slight adjustments in posture, the tension in shoulders, and the micro-expressions that betrayed uncertainty. Each detail fed seamlessly into her awareness. Every sound, the soft patter of rain, the hum of idling engines, the occasional distant horn, woven into a continuous map of observation and anticipation. Alicia shifted weight slightly, a minimal, calculated motion that conveyed readiness and control without overt assertion, and the soft glow of neon on her jacket accentuated the precise, composed alignment of her posture. Blake exhaled slowly, the tightness in his jaw and the pause in his voice betraying the internal questions forming as he assessed her calm authority, his usual certainty undermined by the quiet, controlled presence she maintained. Alicia's hands rested lightly at her sides, yet every movement, breath, gaze, tilt of the head, radiated purpose, control, and the subtle command of attention, compelling the officers to recalibrate their perception of the situation. The mist swirled in the weak wind, carrying the faint scent of damp asphalt and diesel, and Alicia integrated each environmental cue, the reflections in puddles, the shifting light, and the soundscape into a coherent mental model, predicting potential movements and adjusting her posture accordingly. Blake shifted uneasily, unconsciously mirroring her calm stance, and a subtle realization flickered in his eyes, an acknowledgement that the balance of authority had quietly but decisively shifted. Alicia moved with quiet precision, each boot step on the wet concrete measured, deliberate, and controlled, reinforcing the calm dominance she projected without confrontation. Her eyes remained fixed on Blake, interpreting his micro-gestures, reading intention, and anticipating the next words or actions, each moment stretched with quiet tension as the lot seemed to hold its breath. Neon reflections in puddles created a constantly shifting pattern, emphasizing her figure, highlighting the measured control in her stance, and accentuating the poise she carried with effortless composure. Blake attempted to regain a sense of procedural authority, speaking in measured tones, but the steadiness of her presence disrupted the rhythm, creating pauses, hesitation, and subtle questioning in both officers' minds. Alicia adjusted slightly, a minuscule tilt of the head and shift of weight that communicated awareness, patience, and control, the soft hum of engines and gentle drip of rain underscoring her silent dominance. The faint rustle of leaves in the perimeter added to the ambient rhythm, each sound noted and integrated into her situational awareness, reinforcing the careful balance of observation, anticipation, and influence she maintained over the space and the interaction. Every micro-movement, from her hand resting on the cab to the even cadence of her breathing, projected subtle authority, shaping perception and compelling attention without overt gestures, leaving Blake and his partner off balance, uncertain, and increasingly aware of the shift in control. Alicia's gaze briefly caught the reflections of the diner across the lot, noting the glances of patrons, but her focus never wavered from the officers, integrating all visual and auditory data into a seamless flow of perception, assessing, predicting, and maintaining readiness. The night seemed to pulse with quiet energy, the neon glow, wet asphalt, and mist blending into a tableau where presence and attention dictated the flow of interaction, where subtlety carried weight, and where control was asserted through observation, composure, and silent mastery. Alicia Jordan remained fully poised, aware, and in command, her stance unwavering, her micro-movements deliberate, and her focus absolute, as the officers navigated the charged silence, uncertain how to respond, aware that the expected dynamic of authority had been subtly but unmistakably transformed by her calm, calculated presence. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The mist had begun to lift slightly, revealing more of the rest stop under the flickering neon glow, and Alicia Jordan stood fully composed, her posture steady, every detail of the lot fully integrated into her awareness. The puddles reflected distorted images of the trucks and light posts, and she noted each subtle shift in reflection, every movement in the periphery, the hum of idling engines and soft drip of rain forming a constant background rhythm. Officer Blake Thompson and his partner exchanged brief, uncertain glances, their earlier confidence tempered by the quiet, controlled authority Alicia projected without a word. She shifted her weight slightly, a subtle adjustment that conveyed readiness and precise control, each micro-movement deliberate, measured, and purposeful, signaling her calm dominance in the situation. Her eyes scanned the lot in smooth sweeps, registering minor gestures, subtle shifts in posture, and the rhythm of the officer's breathing, each detail processed instantly, integrated into a continuous mental map of observation and anticipation. The mist swirled lightly around her silhouette, carrying the scent of wet asphalt and distant exhaust, and Alicia adjusted her stance just enough to emphasize poise, balance, and readiness, projecting a quiet yet undeniable command of space. Blake took a cautious step forward, and she held his gaze steadily, unblinking, conveying awareness, focus, and an unspoken challenge that required a pause, a moment of reconsideration on his part. The faint flicker of neon above cast shifting light across the asphalt and puddles, accentuating the precise alignment of her posture, the calm in her stance, and the quiet confidence in her presence, drawing attention and respect without the need for words. Alicia's hands rested lightly at her sides, her fingers occasionally brushing the cab door, movements subtle but full of intention, reinforcing her readiness and control. Each sound, the distant rumble of a truck engine, the occasional drip of rain, the muted hum of neon lights, was noted, integrated, and processed into her continuous assessment of the environment, every cue influencing her perception, anticipation, and posture. Blake's shoulders tensed as he attempted to maintain procedural composure, but Alicia's steady, measured presence disrupted the expected flow of authority, introducing hesitation and doubt into his actions. She moved just slightly, a calculated micro-shift of weight, signaling awareness and quiet control, reinforcing the rhythm of presence that dictated the subtle dynamics of the encounter. The reflections in puddles and chrome surfaces caught fleeting flashes of light, highlighting her figure and the precise alignment of her stance, and her gaze continuously evaluated the environment, measuring intention, movement, and potential shifts in attention from the officers. Blake's partner adjusted slightly, almost mirroring her posture unconsciously, demonstrating the quiet influence her composed presence had over them, a soft but undeniable shift in the balance of perceived authority. Alicia exhaled gently, a controlled movement that reinforced the calm rhythm she projected, shoulders squared, chest lifted, eyes focused, integrating all sensory input, visual, auditory, environmental, into a coherent understanding of the situation. Every element of the lot, the mist, the neon, the wet asphalt, the trucks, and the officers themselves, was absorbed, evaluated, and accounted for in her awareness, reinforcing her command over the space through presence, micro-movement, and deliberate attention. Blake and his partner hesitated, a subtle acknowledgement of her influence, their steps slower, more measured, as they navigated the charged tension of the night, recognizing, though silently, that their assumptions had shifted. Alicia's small, deliberate adjustments, the tilt of her head, the controlled cadence of her breath, the precision of her stance, all projected authority, mastery, and readiness, holding attention and subtly guiding the behavior of those around her. The lot seemed suspended in a moment of quiet anticipation, every sound and reflection a part of the tableau, the night air charged with observation, perception, and measured influence, and Alicia Jordan remained at the center of it all, poised, aware, and fully in command, ready for the subtle reveal that would confirm the balance of control she had quietly established over the encounter. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success. The mist had thinned just enough for the first faint glimmers of early dawn to stretch across the rest stop, the wet asphalt reflecting the shifting neon light and the soft silver hue of the morning sky. Alicia Jordan stood fully composed, her posture relaxed yet precise, every micro-movement deliberate, each subtle shift in weight projecting calm authority and total awareness of the space around her. Officer Blake Thompson and his partner remained a few steps away, tense, their previous assumptions dissolved under the quiet influence of her poised presence. Each gesture she made calculated, measured, and commanding attention without a single word. Alicia's eyes swept the lot, noting the alignment of trucks, reflections in puddles, the slight movements of distant patrons in the diner, integrating the entire environment into a seamless understanding that guided her posture, timing, and subtle motions. A faint breeze carried the scent of rain and asphalt, brushing against her jacket and hair, and she allowed herself a slow, controlled breath, the rise and fall of her chest reinforcing her steady rhythm, her focus unwavering as she read the unspoken reactions of the officers. Blake shifted again, hand hovering near his radio, hesitation clear in the measured steps he took, as Alicia's calm dominance subtly reshaped the dynamics of authority, compelling them to reconsider every move. Her boots clicked softly against the wet surface as she stepped slightly closer, yet the motion was gentle, non-threatening, and entirely controlled, a perfect balance of presence and awareness that drew attention naturally. The reflection of neon lights in puddles shimmered with movement, highlighting the deliberate poise in her stance and the controlled rhythm of her gestures, each micro-movement reinforcing her unspoken authority and the careful attention she maintained over the environment. Blake's eyes flicked to his partner, exchanging a brief glance of uncertainty, both officers recognizing, though without fully articulating, that the expected hierarchy of control had shifted. The quiet authority Alicia exuded impossible to ignore. She adjusted her posture, a slight tilt of the head, a subtle shift in stance, and the very air seemed to respond. The gentle hum of engines, the soft drip of water from eaves, and the muted rustle of leaves creating a soundscape that accentuated her presence and the calm dominance she maintained. Alicia's gaze returned to Blake, meeting his eyes steadily, her composure and unshakable focus projecting intelligence, confidence, and unspoken mastery, the tension in the lot subtly bending around her quiet command. The mist carried soft echoes of distant traffic and muted neon reflections, integrating seamlessly into her awareness, each environmental cue reinforcing her readiness, the precision in her gestures, and the rhythm of controlled attention that kept the officers off balance. Blake's partner shifted slightly, unconsciously mirroring her calm posture, a subtle acknowledgement of the influence she exerted simply by standing poised, aware, and in full command. Alicia allowed a slow, deliberate exhale, the controlled cadence of her breathing reinforcing her composed presence, shoulders squared, chest lifted slightly, eyes unwavering, integrating sight, sound, and motion into continuous situational awareness. The neon flicker across the lot highlighted puddles and chrome, casting long, soft shadows, accentuating her deliberate movements and calm intensity. Every small gesture, from resting hands lightly on the cab to the minimal tilt of the head, radiated control and quiet mastery, guiding attention, shaping perception, and asserting influence without confrontation. Blake and his partner hesitated, each step measured, aware that the normal assumptions of authority no longer applied, the lot suspended in a charged stillness of observation, awareness, and subtle tension. Alicia Jordan remained at the center, fully poised, attentive, and commanding, her presence blending observation, calm, and precise control into a seamless demonstration of quiet authority. The mist slowly lifted further as dawn crept across the lot, painting the asphalt in muted shades of silver and gold, while Alicia's stance, gaze, and micro-movements held absolute influence over the environment, her control unquestioned and unbroken, the quiet revelation complete, leaving the officers to navigate the transformed dynamic in the charged calm of the early morning. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to follow the whole story. I wish you happiness and success.